Lyra stepped onto the vast training grounds, her boots sinking slightly into the red-brown dust of the Academy's outer arena. The sun of the distant planet burned hot, casting long shadows over the modern structures that gleamed with polished metal and glass. Everywhere she looked, cadets, human and alien, practiced with energy weapons, plasma rifles, and other technology designed to dominate combat. She held her ancient earth blade in her hands, its worn hilt and slightly rusted edge a sharp contrast to the glowing weapons around her. A group of alien cadets, their scales shimmering in shades of blue and green, noticed her immediately. One of them, a tall figure with 3 arms and eyes like molten silver, tilted his head and let out a laugh that echoed across the arena. "That metal?" he said in a voice that carried easily despite being alien. "Do you mean to fight with that antique?" "That is barely a toy," the other cadet snickered. A few humans exchanged awkward glances, unsure if they should defend her. Lyra tightened her grip on the blade, trying to ignore their mockery, but her stomach twisted. She had trained for years to reach the Academy, leaving her small settlement on Earth behind, and now it felt as though her past and her culture were being laughed at. "Ancient Earth metal?" one of the aliens added, stepping closer. "Your ancestors used sticks and stones. You might as well throw pebbles at us." Lyra's fingers ached around the hilt. She had heard such comments before on Earth, but the Academy was supposed to be a place where skill mattered, not history. Yet here, in this place where the galaxy's most advanced technology was the standard, her blade seemed almost useless. A human instructor, a grizzled man with scars crisscrossing his face and one cybernetic eye, approached her quietly. His name was Commander Kale. He crouched slightly so his voice would reach her ears without the others overhearing. "Don't listen to them," he whispered. "That metal was forged to cut titans. They don't understand what you carry." Lyra looked at him, skepticism etched across her face. Titans. Mythical creatures from the old stories, massive beings that had terrorized humanity in its early days of space exploration. How could this blade, so old, so simple, be relevant now? Yet something in Kale's eyes told her he believed it, and that belief, strangely, settled a spark of courage inside her. The whistle blew, signaling the start of the sparring session. Lyra took a deep breath, tightened her grip, and stepped into the combat arena. The other cadets armed with plasma swords and energy shields formed a semicircle around her. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to focus. Her first opponent was an alien, with a long whip-like tail tipped with a blade. He lunged at her with blinding speed. Lyra barely had time to raise her blade, deflecting the strike with a clang that made several cadets jump back. The sound of metal against metal seemed almost old-fashioned here, like a forgotten song. The alien struck again, faster this time, and Lyra struggled to keep up. Her arms burned, and her legs felt like lead, but she remembered Kale's words. "They don't understand what you carry." With a deep breath, she changed her stance, grounding herself, and dodged a spinning strike. She countered, aiming for the alien's side. Her blade scratched his armor, and though it didn't cut deep, it made him stumble back in surprise. A murmur went through the crowd. Humans whispered, some even daring to cheer, but the aliens only sneered, masking their unease. "You're slow," one shouted. "That blade is useless!" Lyra's mind raced. She had trained with energy weapons herself, but they never felt like hers. The blade, however, had weight, history, and a connection she could not explain. She focused on that feeling, letting the rhythm of her movements guide her rather than speed or flashy attacks. The next strike came from a human cadet, a boy from a neighboring colony who had trained exclusively with plasma swords. His attack was precise and fast. Lyra barely managed to block, sparks flying where the blades met. Her arms trembled, but her mind stayed sharp. She noticed small gaps in his guard, movements repeated out of habit, patterns he assumed were invisible. She saw an opening and struck, not with raw power, but with accuracy. The tip of her blade slid under his guard, grazing his armor and sending him stumbling backward. The crowd gasped. The alien cadet's sneers faltered. Lyra felt her confidence rise like a tide. She had fought well, not with flashy tech, but with skill and patience. The sparring continued, each round more challenging than the last. Every opponent underestimated her because of the blade. Every time she used that expectation against them, a long, thin alien attacked with multiple whips at once. Lyra ducked, weaved, and deflected the blows in a rhythm that seemed almost dance-like. Her blade sang through the air, and for the first time, she felt not just competent, but powerful. By the end of the session, Lyra was exhausted, her arms shaking, her clothes soaked with sweat. Yet she had survived every round. She had not been the fastest, but she had been the smartest. And the whispers that had begun behind her back now carried a different tone, a mix of awe and disbelief. The alien who had mocked her at first approached cautiously. His silver eyes were wide, unguarded for the first time. "Your blade," he said slowly, as if tasting the words. "It is different." Lyra said nothing, only held her sword at her side, catching her breath. She had no need to explain. The weapon, and the skill with which she wielded it, spoke louder than words ever could. Call approached, clapping lightly. "Not bad," he said, his cybernetic eye glinting in the sunlight. "You have talent, Lyra! More importantly, you have patience. And the patience of a human warrior can overcome things far larger and faster than itself. Remember this?" Lyra nodded. His words sank deep. The ridicule of the aliens still stung, but it no longer burned. She realized something important. The blade itself was only part of the power she wielded. Her mind, her instincts, her humanity. That was the edge that no energy weapon could replicate. As the sun began to set, painting the arena in hues of gold and crimson, Lyra stood alone at the center. The ancient earth blade gleamed faintly in the dying light, and she ran her thumb along the edge. It was old, yes, slightly worn, but in its steel flowed the legacy of countless humans who had fought and survived when the odds were impossible. The Academy, with all its advanced technology, might not have understood it yet. The alien cadets might continue to mock her, but she knew the truth. Humans were underestimated because no one had learned to respect the weight of their history, their cunning, and their courage. That night, in her small quarters, Lyra cleaned her blade carefully. She remembered the stories her grandfather had told her about Earth warriors and titans, creatures so massive and powerful they seemed unstoppable. He had spoken of blades forged in secret, of courage and cunning winning battles that brute strength could not. Lyra felt that connection now, stronger than ever. Kale's words echoed in her mind. That metal was forged to cut titans. She didn't fully understand what it meant yet. Perhaps she never would. Not entirely. But she felt it in her muscles, in her heartbeat, and in the rhythm of the blade when she held it in her hands. She was ready to learn, ready to fight, and ready to prove that humanity's old ways were far from obsolete. Outside, the night was calm. The distant stars glittered like scattered diamonds across the black sky, indifferent and eternal. Somewhere in the galaxy, dangers waited, forces far stronger than any Academy simulation. Lyra's heart beat fast at the thought, but it was not fear. It was anticipation, for she knew that one day, when the time came, that blade, that human skill, and that determination would be the difference between survival and extinction. And when the universe mocked humanity again, she would be ready. The morning sun cut across the Academy's courtyard like molten gold, reflecting off the sleek armor of cadets as they moved in drills. Lyra arrived early, her old earth blade strapped to her back, feeling the weight of it press against her shoulders. The other cadets passed her, some casting curious glances at the worn weapon, others shaking their heads in silent disbelief. She ignored them. Today was not about proving anything to the aliens. Today was about understanding the blade, understanding herself, and learning to become more than just a human who could survive. Commander Kale was already waiting by a secluded part of the training ground, a section where holographic targets and energy fields rarely reached. He was a shadow among shadows, his cybernetic eye scanning the surroundings with precision. "Good," he said as she approached. "You made it. That blade. It has a voice. You only need to learn to listen." Lyra frowned. "A voice?" she asked, unsure if he was mocking her or if he meant it literally. Kale shook his head. "Not words, Lyra. Rhythm, balance, intention. The blade remembers the hands of those who carried it before you. It has power, but it needs guidance. Today, you learn how to command it, not just swing it." He led her to a training area shielded from the rest of the academy, where holographic opponents and energy simulations could be activated. Kale gestured for her to stand in the center. "Focus," he said simply. "Forget what everyone else is using. Forget the speed of their energy weapons. You have something they do not." Lyra nodded. She raised the blade, feeling its familiar weight. Unlike plasma swords or energy rifles, it had substance, presence. Every curve, every nick, told a story. Kyle began slowly, demonstrating basic forms, movements that seemed archaic but fluid. He moved with precision, each step calculated, each strike purposeful. Lyra mirrored him, struggling at first to match the rhythm, her movements stiff and awkward.
"You are rushing," Kale said, stopping her mid-strike. "You are thinking about hitting, not about moving."
The blade is not a tool for reaction. It is an extension of your body. Feel it. Become it. Lyra took a deep breath. She closed her eyes briefly and let the memory of her grandfather's lessons flood back. Stories of warriors who faced creatures larger than buildings, who survived storms, who fought when hope seemed lost. She imagined the blade in their hands, not just cutting, but commanding, shaping every battle. When she opened her eyes, Kale nodded slightly. "Better, now, more speed." The next hours were grueling. Lyra moved through forms that forced her muscles to scream, her mind to focus with precision. Kale guided her as holographic opponents sprang up. One with twin plasma whips, another with a rotating energy shield, a third that moved unpredictably as if anticipating her moves before she made them. Lyra's first attempts were clumsy. She struck the air, stumbled, almost dropped the blade. But with every mistake, she adjusted. She learned to feel the weight, to anticipate the flow, to move like water instead of steel. By mid-afternoon, she could block multiple attacks in succession, her blade weaving through energy strikes and mechanical limbs with a rhythm that even Kale had to acknowledge. Sweat poured down her face. Her arms ached, yet for the first time she felt a growing confidence. The blade was no longer just a relic. It was a weapon that could respond to her intentions, one that moved with her, not against her. "You're learning," Kale said, observing her final demonstration of the day. "The rest of the academy does not understand what they are looking at. They will mock it again, and yet," he paused, letting the words hang, "they will regret it when the time comes."
Lyra felt a chill.
"When the time comes?"
she asked.
Kyle's eyes gleamed. "Sooner than you think." "You are ready for your first real test, Lyra. The Academy doesn't tell you everything, but you will see soon enough what the galaxy has waiting." Hours passed. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Lyra returned to her quarters to clean her blade. She ran a cloth along the edge, marveling at the glint of the ancient alloy. In the silence of the room, she felt a connection stronger than any she had experienced before. This was no ordinary weapon. It carried history, resilience, and the weight of generations. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp, calm alert. A holographic projection flickered to life, showing the outer perimeter of the academy. Red lights blinked frantically, indicating a breach in the defense system. Lyra's pulse quickened. Kale's voice came through her communicator.
"You wanted to see what you're truly capable of? It starts now."
"Get to the arena. Move fast. Think faster." She sprinted through the corridors, the weight of her blade almost comforting as she passed armored cadets who were already arming themselves with energy rifles. The sound of alarms and distant explosions echoed across the academy. Something large and fast was outside, and her heart pounded in sync with the fear she knew she had to overcome. When she arrived at the perimeter, chaos met her. Alien scouts, smaller than the massive titans Kale had spoken of, had infiltrated the academy. Energy shields flared, and cadets fired rapidly, but the intruders moved with unnatural agility. Humans struggled to match their speed. Lyra stood at the edge, taking in the scene. Her first instinct was fear, but then she remembered the morning, Kale's lessons, and the whispers of her ancestors through the blade. She gripped it tightly. The metal seemed to hum slightly against her hands, almost as if it recognized the danger and responded. She stepped forward. The first alien scout lunged at her with a whip-like appendage. Reflexively, Lyra blocked and twisted, her blade scraping against its armored plating. Sparks flew, and the scout stumbled, momentarily stunned. Another lunged from her right. She pivoted, using the weight of the blade to redirect its momentum, sending it crashing against a metal railing. The other cadets paused, staring. A human had just done what their energy weapons could not. Stopped, an alien scout with a single strike of an ancient blade. Murmurs spread. Even some of the alien cadets watching from the arena's control towers leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. Lyra pressed on, her strikes precise and deliberate. Each swing Kator deflected, with perfect timing, her blade moving in a rhythm that seemed almost alive. She dodged a claw swipe and drove the tip of her blade under the alien's shield joint, piercing its armor enough to disable its limb. It shrieked and fell. "Impressive," Kale's voice said in her ear. "They underestimate the blade, and underestimate you. That is humanity's advantage."
The galaxy thinks it has evolved past us, but we evolve in ways they cannot predict. Another scout leapt from above.
Lyra caught it mid-motion, spinning and using its momentum against it, sending it crashing into a stack of debris. Cadets around her were cheering now, rallying behind the rhythm of her actions. It was no longer just Lyra fighting. Her energy inspired everyone, a spark that ignited a fire of confidence. The breach was small, but the aliens were fast. Lyra realized she had to act smart, not just strong. She led the scouts into a narrow corridor, using their overconfidence against them. One by one, they were taken down. Either by precise strikes or by clever traps she set on the fly. Her blade, ancient and seemingly out of place, became a tool of strategy as much as of combat. Finally, only one scout remained. It was faster and larger than the others, moving with a precision that challenged even her reflexes. Lyra backed up, observing, waiting. She felt the rhythm of the blade, felt the weight in her hands. Then, when it lunged, she sidestepped, guided it into a spinning trap of debris, and drove her blade into its exposed core joint. The alien went down with a cry that echoed through the perimeter. Silence followed. The cadets, human and alien alike, looked on, stunned. Lyra stood in the center, chest heaving, her blade held steady. The whispers of mockery had vanished, replaced by awe and cautious respect. She had survived her first real test, and in doing so, reminded everyone watching that humans were not defined by the tools they wielded, but by the courage and intelligence behind them. Kale approached, clapping lightly despite the tension. "Well done, Lyra," he said. "You are learning faster than I expected. That blade. It is not just history. It is proof that humanity has strengths no alien can predict. Remember this feeling. Remember this victory. It is only the beginning." Lyra lowered her blade, her arms trembling, but her heart swelled with pride. The Academy had mocked her weapon. The aliens had doubted her skill. Yet here she stood, victorious, and deep inside she knew that larger challenges awaited. Creatures, battles, titans that dwarfed these scouts. but for the first time, she was ready to face them. The sun dipped completely below the horizon, leaving the academy bathed in the soft glow of artificial lights. Lyra cleaned her blade, each movement deliberate, as if honoring the ancient metal that had served her so well. She thought of Kale's words, of the lessons of Earth, and of the countless humans who had faced impossible odds and survived. Her blade was more than steel. It was a bridge between past and future, between human resilience and the evolving challenges of the galaxy. And Lyra was beginning to understand her role. She was not just a cadet, not just a fighter. She was a link in the chain of humanity's defiance, a reminder that even the oldest weapon, wielded with skill and courage, could cut through forces thought unstoppable. Tonight, she slept with the blade at her side, dreams filled with stars, distant planets, and the faint echo of titans. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring new challenges. But tonight, she had proven herself, and that proof was enough to ignite the spark of legend. The morning air was thick with tension as the academy buzzed with activity. Red warning lights flashed across the control towers, and the hum of energy shields filled the corridors. Lyra's sleep had been short, haunted by distant roars that seemed to shake the stars themselves. Today was not another drill. Today, they were going to face something far larger, far more dangerous. Commander Kale met her at the perimeter, his expression grim. "Reports confirm it," he said. "A Titan-class organism has entered the system. It's moving toward the academy."
Everything you've trained for. This is the real test.
Lyra tightened her grip on her blade. She had faced alien scouts, smaller, agile threats, but nothing like this. Her heart pounded, but her mind remained clear. Kale's words echoed in her memory. Titans fear humans not because of their tools, but because humans never quit.
The cadets were being organized into defense squads, but many hesitated, staring up at the horizon where the first glimpses of the Titan could be seen.
Its size was unimaginable, taller than the academy towers, with thick armor plates that shimmered under the morning sun. Its limbs were massive, ending in claws that could crush vehicles in a single strike. Its head, elongated and alien, had eyes that glowed with intelligence and malice. "Move, Lyra," Kale commanded.
Lead the forward strike team. Use your blade.
"The energy weapons will slow it, but they won't stop it. You are humanity's edge."
Lyra swallowed hard. Forward strike team.
Humans were counting on her, counting on the blade. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak, but she did not falter. She nodded. The squad followed her through the training grounds, past the alarmed cadets firing energy rifles at the Titan's advancing scouts. Lyra's eyes never left the massive form in the distance. She could feel its movement, a rhythm in the ground as it approached. She raised her blade, feeling the orichalcum alloy respond, its subtle hum like a heartbeat in her hands. The first clash came quickly. Smaller alien drones, harbingers of the Titan, surged toward them, firing energy beams. Lyra's squad raised shields, but they were slow, cumbersome against the nimble attackers. Without thinking, Lyra charged. Her blade swung in a wide arc, slicing through the drones with precision. Sparks flew, armor cracked, and the squad gained ground behind her momentum. "Impressive!" Kale's voice came through her communicator. "Keep moving! Don't let fear take hold!" Lyra led her squad into the narrow corridors between the training grounds and the academy's main defensive walls. The Titan's massive footfalls shook the ground, each step reverberating through her bones. Its approach was deliberate, intelligent. Unlike the scouts, this was not just brute force. It was strategy. The energy weapons of the cadets were mostly ineffective against the Titan's armor. Plasma beams bounced off like water droplets off stone. Explosions rocked the area, sending humans and aliens alike scrambling for cover. The squad was pinned down, and panic began to spread. Lyra remembered the lessons of the previous day. The patience, the rhythm, the precision. This was not a fight of speed or sheer power. This was a fight of wits, skill, and courage. She looked at the Titan, scanning for weakness. There, a small joint under the Titan's left arm, where armor plates overlapped imperfectly. A vulnerable spot. Energy weapons couldn't reach it effectively, but her blade could. She nodded to her squad. "Distracted! Don't stop moving!"
"I'll get to strike!"
The humans and aliens moved in unison, a coordinated dance of dodges, feints, and minor attacks. The Titan turned its massive head, trying to anticipate the movements. But Lyra's squad was unpredictable. Every step, every strike was designed to guide the creature toward her chosen opening. Lyra moved closer, her heart hammering. She could feel the air pressure shift as the Titan's limbs swung, creating gusts that threatened to knock her off her feet. Dust and debris filled the air, stinging her eyes, but she did not hesitate. She ran, dodged, and then leapt. Her blade struck the joint precisely, sliding through the small gap in the alien's armor. Sparks erupted, and the Titan roared, a sound so loud it made the ground quake. Its arm jerked violently, smashing part of the wall, but Lyra held firm, using the momentum to twist the blade further, destabilizing the creature. The squad cheered behind her, renewed by her courage. Humans and aliens alike began to see what she already knew. The blade, guided by a human mind, was far more dangerous than the aliens had anticipated. The Titan swung its massive arm, aiming directly at her. Lyra rolled, feeling the ground tear against her uniform, and came up behind the creature. She struck again, targeting the joints, the soft spots, the weaknesses energy weapons ignored. Every hit was precise, calculated, and effective. Kale's voice rang in her ear. "You see, Lyra, this is why humans survive. Our enemies expect us to fight like machines, but we are more than that. We think, we adapt, we endure. Now, finish it." Lyra's chest heaved. The Titan was wounded but far from defeated. Its eyes glowed with fury, and it moved faster than she expected. She ducked under a massive swing, rolling and striking again. Her arms ached, her muscles burned, but she did not stop. This was what she had trained for, what the blade had been waiting for. Then, the Titan roared, stomping the ground in frustration. It raised both arms high, intending to crush her squad in a single motion. Lyra's mind raced. There was no way to strike it from the front now. She needed a plan, and fast. She remembered her grandfather's stories. Earth warriors had faced creatures bigger than cities by using the environment, by thinking faster than their enemies. She scanned the debris, the walls, the uneven ground. There, a section of the training wall, weakened by previous energy blasts. If she could guide the Titan toward it, it might collapse partially, giving her access to a vulnerable side. "Follow me!" she shouted, signaling the squad. They moved, dodging debris and strikes, baiting the Titan toward the wall. The creature followed, its size limiting its maneuverability. Lyra's strategy was working. With a massive crash, part of the wall gave way, and the Titan stumbled slightly. Lyra seized the moment. She ran up a pile of rubble, vaulting onto a raised platform that brought her to the creature's side. With all her strength, she swung the blade into the Titan's exposed midsection. Sparks and alien fluid sprayed, and the Titan roared in pain and confusion. It staggered back, losing balance, giving the squad a chance to regroup. Humans and aliens fired coordinated shots, but it was Lyra's blade that had truly cut through the Titan's defenses. Her strategy, her courage, and her ancient weapon had combined to create an effect that no energy rifle alone could achieve. Kale's voice, proud and steady, came again. "Humans are underestimated because they adapt. Remember that feeling, Lyra. Remember the power of ingenuity." The Titan recovered, furious, and struck a nearby tower with its claw, sending a shower of sparks and debris into the air. Lyra ducked, rolling to safety. She felt her body screaming in protest, her arms shaking from exertion, but she also felt alive in a way she never had before. The battle continued, and Lyra moved with a rhythm, striking joints, leading the creature into traps, exploiting weaknesses it could not anticipate. Her squad followed her lead, inspired by her focus and skill. Humans had always been underestimated, and now they were proving why they should never be counted out. As the Titan weakened, Lyra realized something important. This was not just a fight to survive. It was a message to the galaxy. The blade she wielded was more than a weapon. It was proof that human ingenuity, courage, and persistence could overcome even the most terrifying odds. Finally, the Titan faltered, its massive limbs dragging across the ground as Lyra struck one last precise blow. It let out a final roar and collapsed, shaking the entire academy grounds. Silence followed, punctuated only by the heavy breathing of exhausted cadets and the distant hum of energy shields stabilizing. Lyra dropped to her knees, her hands trembling as she held the blade. Her squad rushed to her side, cheering, slapping her back, and offering words of congratulations. Even the alien cadets, previously mocking, stared in disbelief, some in awe, others in reluctant respect.
"You did well," he said simply. "Better than I expected."
That blade, that skill, it proves what humans are capable of. Never let anyone make you doubt it again. Lyra nodded, tears of exhaustion and triumph streaming down her face. The Titan was defeated, and in that moment, she understood the truth of Kale's words. Humans were underestimated because their strength was not in technology alone, but in their adaptability, their intelligence, and their relentless spirit. That night, as the Academy celebrated the victory, Lyra sat alone on a raised platform, gazing at the stars. The orichalcum blade rested across her lap, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. She thought of Earth, of her grandfather's stories, and of the countless humans who had faced impossible odds and survived. Her body was tired, but her mind was awake with possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, larger threats, new titans, the endless dangers of a galaxy that never slept. But tonight, she had proven not only her skill, but humanity's enduring strength. The blade in her hands was no longer just an ancient relic, it was a symbol, a reminder that humans, even when underestimated, could stand against the impossible. And Lyra, for the first time, truly felt what it meant to be a human warrior, carrying the weight of history and the promise of the future. The morning was quiet, almost eerily so. The Academy had survived the last attack, but the air was thick with tension. Lyra stood at the edge of the training grounds, her blade in hand, glinting in the first light of dawn. The Titan she had faced yesterday was only a scout. Intelligence reports had confirmed it. There were larger, more powerful Titans moving through the system. The Academy, despite its defenses, was now a target. Commander Kale approached, his cybernetic eye scanning the horizon.
"Lyra, it's time. The final test. The one you've been preparing for."
Today, the Academy faces the full force of a Titan-class organism. And you, he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. You will lead the charge. Lyra's chest tightened. She had faced fear before, but nothing like this. Titans were massive, intelligent, and destructive. Energy weapons, her squad's strongest tech, could only slow them. But her blade, her ancient earth blade, could strike where others could not. She gripped it tightly, feeling the hum of orichalcum alloy against her palm, and nodded. The Academy alarms blared. Red lights bathed the courtyard as humans and aliens alike rushed to their positions. Lyra moved swiftly to the forward observation point, where the first glimpses of the Titan appeared. It was enormous, far larger than the scout she had faced yesterday. Its armored body shimmered under the planet's sun, each movement creating shockwaves that rattled the walls. Its glowing eyes scanned the Academy like a predator assessing prey. Lyra's squad gathered behind her, their energy weapons raised. Fear was visible on their faces, but she could see the flicker of hope as they glanced at her blade. She remembered Kale's lessons, the patience, the rhythm, the precision. Today was not about sport. It was about thinking, adapting, and surviving.
Follow my lead, she shouted, raising her blade.
Energy weapons will slow it. I will find the opening.
Stick with me, and we survive. The Titan moved with terrifying speed. Despite its massive size, energy blasts erupted from cadets along the perimeter, striking the creature's armor. But they barely left a mark. It swung a massive arm, smashing a defensive tower into rubble. Dust and debris filled the air, forcing humans to take cover. Lyra's heart pounded, but she moved forward without hesitation. The first clash was immediate. Smaller Titan drones sent as forward guards lunged toward them. Lyra swung her blade with a precision born of hours of practice and instinct. Sparks flew as orichalcum alloy met alien metal. One drone toppled, another staggered, and the squad followed her rhythm, striking, dodging, and baiting their enemies. The massive Titan loomed closer, each step shaking the ground like an earthquake. Lyra scanned its armor, looking for weaknesses. Its joints were thick, its plating nearly impenetrable. But a pattern emerged, a slight gap near its left shoulder, where the plates overlapped imperfectly. It was small, almost imperceptible, but enough. "Distract it!" Lyra shouted. Her squad scattered, moving unpredictably, drawing the Titan's attention. It swung its massive arms, crashing into barricades and striking where humans dared to fight. Lyra ran, dodged, and leapt, positioning herself at the perfect angle. Her blade struck first, sliding between the armor plates. Sparks erupted as it cut deep, and the Titan roared, a sound so loud it rattled the Academy's foundations. The alien cadets froze, their fear turning into awe. Energy blasts from the squad followed her strike, but it was the blade, ancient and precise, that caused the first real damage. The Titan retaliated, swinging both arms to crush her squad. Lyra ducked, rolling over a fallen beam, and countered with a strike to the exposed joint. Her muscles burned, and sweat stung her eyes, but she did not falter. Each strike, each movement was calculated, anticipating the Titan's next motion. She was no longer just a cadet. She was the weapon, the rhythm, the force that the aliens had not prepared for. Kale's voice rang in her communicator.
This is what I've been teaching you, Lyra. Humans survive because we adapt.
We think now. Finish it. Lyra scanned the battlefield. The Titan was wounded but far from defeated. Its massive tail swept across the ground, sending cadets sprawling. Debris and smoke filled the air, and visibility was low. She needed a plan. Her eyes caught a weak spot in the surrounding structures, a partially collapsed tower, weakened from the earlier attacks. If she could maneuver the Titan toward it, the rubble could trap it temporarily, giving her a clear shot at its core. "Move! Move!" she shouted, signaling her squad. They followed, darting between obstacles, baiting the Titan toward the tower. The creature's intelligence became apparent. It adjusted, anticipating their movements. But Lyra was faster, thinking 2 steps ahead. The Titan stumbled slightly as it collided with the weakened tower. Dust and debris erupted into the air. Lyra leapt onto a higher platform, putting herself at the Titan's side. She could see the joint clearly now, exposed for the first time. Taking a deep breath, she swung with all her strength. The blade cut into the armor, sparks flying, the alloy singing as it carved through alien metal. The Titan roared, staggering backward, but Lyra pressed the attack. She drove the blade deeper, twisting and slicing at precise angles. Her squad fired coordinated shots, but it was the blade, guided by human skill, that was causing the real damage. The Titan's massive arms flailed, but Lyra moved in perfect rhythm, avoiding each strike. Cadets watched in awe as she struck again and again, finding weak points, guiding the Titan into traps and exploiting its blind spots. Her movements were not just combat, they were strategy, creativity, instinct. The blade hummed with energy as it met armor, a bridge between human ingenuity and ancient Earth craftsmanship. Finally, with a coordinated maneuver, Lyra struck the Titan's core joint, the weakest point of all. Sparks and alien fluid sprayed across the battlefield. The Titan faltered, staggering, then collapsed, shaking the academy as it hit the ground. Silence fell, broken only by the ragged breathing of exhausted cadets. Lyra dropped to her knees, gripping the blade tightly, her arms trembling. Around her, humans and aliens alike looked on in disbelief. The Titan, the creature thought to be unstoppable, had been defeated by a single human with a blade from an ancient planet. Kale approached, clapping lightly, his cybernetic eye gleaming. "You did it, Lyra. You proved what humans are capable of. That blade. It is history, skill, and courage in one. Never forget that humans survive because we adapt, because we endure, and because we never quit." Lyra nodded, chest heaving. Exhaustion mixed with exhilaration. She had faced the impossible, and she had survived. More than that, she had triumphed. The blade was no longer a relic. It was a symbol. A reminder that humanity could overcome any challenge, no matter the size or strength of the enemy. The Academy began repairing the damage, but for Lyra, the victory was more than structural. It was legacy. She had honored the warriors of Earth, the traditions of the past, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. As night fell, Lyra stood atop a hill overlooking the Academy, the blade gleaming in the moonlight. Stars stretched across the sky, distant and indifferent, yet she felt connected to them. The universe was vast, dangerous, and often cruel. Titans, alien empires, and unknown threats lurked in the darkness. But humans had the power of will, of cunning, and of history. Lyra sheathed the blade carefully, feeling the weight of it against her side. She thought of the words Kale had whispered the first day she arrived at the Academy. That metal was forged to cut titans. Now, she understood. Fully. It was not just the blade. It was the human behind it, the mind, the courage, the relentless spirit that made the weapon unstoppable. Her squad gathered around her, their faces reflecting relief, admiration, and newfound respect. Even the alien cadets who had mocked her weeks ago now regarded her with cautious awe. Humans were underestimated, yes, but never again. Lyra looked at the stars, a sense of peace washing over her. The battle had been won, but the war for survival in the galaxy would continue, and she was ready. Humans had weapons, yes, but more importantly, humans had hearts, minds, and a will that could not be broken. Tonight, she slept with the blade beside her, dreams filled with distant planets, stars, and the faint echo of titans yet to come. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, but she would face them, as she always had, with courage, skill, and the blade that had become an extension of herself. And one day, the galaxy would remember her, not just as Lyra, the cadet, but as the human who reminded everyone that underestimating humanity was the gravest mistake anyone could make.